Going to explain the functionality of the Motorola 8000 radio and the code plug that is used by the Army Aviation Facility number 2 in Louisville, Tennessee. And I will start with the top buttons. Obviously, upper right is the power button, volume turned clockwise and adjusted. The ABC switch is left on A. You can see in some frequencies that you can slide it over to C to get low power. In some frequencies it has no effect at all. Just leave it on alpha. The encryption, you can see that the line is left on the O without a slash through it. That is encryption. There are no frequencies in this radio right now that are encrypted. It's easily bumped. Just make sure that it is on the O without the slash in it. The rotator button has a stop counterclockwise at the 1. It does not continue rotating. You have 16 frequencies you can go to, and I will show you in a second how to go to other frequencies in this particular zone. The orange button, pressed once, scan on. It will be pressed again, scan will be off. We'll show that in just a second. So we will go on the front of the display. We will go through, and I will cover the frequencies later, to 16. And then on the side, you can continue, and there's 2 buttons, the top and the bottom. To continue forward, you would press and go through the rest of the frequencies, and you start right back where you started from, which is NG Flight Ops. I'll go up a few and then cover the switches on the front. You will notice that there's a yellow home button. No matter where you are, if you press the yellow home button and hold it, even though the top rotator is somewhere else, you will be on NG Flight Ops no matter where you are. I'm going to go ahead and rotate the top selector back all the way counterclockwise until it's on frequency 1, which is NG Flight Ops. Going back to the scan list, right now the only frequencies that are programmed in the scan list are the NG Flight Ops and the next frequency up, which is a direct frequency. And I will turn the scan on, and you will see a Z in the upper part of the screen. Going to the screen upper left, you will see bars which are very similar to a cell phone. This is an indication that this frequency is on a repeater network, in this case the TACAN network, and the strength indicator of the radio on that network. The Z, obviously a scan, and in a scan mode you will hear all of the frequencies that are in that scan list when someone makes a call. You have 2 to 3 seconds to answer on that frequency, and it will be displayed on the top and the front for about 3 seconds. You can press to talk during that time and answer on that frequency without changing your frequency on the dial, on top or on the side. But you can obviously, if you don't have time, you can see which frequency they're calling you on. You notice the ABC switch, we're on a high here as far as the power setting, and obviously your battery indicator as well. I'll go to the top and I will go clockwise 1, VTAC 11, to show you that it is in the scan list, and it is also a direct frequency. Notice upper left, there are no bars. This is a direct frequency, radio to radio, and you know that by looking at the 2 vertical bars with an arrow pointing to the right bar. That is the indicator that this is a direct frequency. It is not on a tower or repeater network. It's line of sight. Okay, and as we talked about, I can press the home button, press and hold.
National Guard Flight Ops.
And I can go back to the NG Flight Ops no matter where I am. All right, so I'm going to press the scan, get rid of that. I'm going to go counterclockwise to NG Flight Ops. Okay, covering the scan list function, I will go to the scan list, which is the button below the indicator on the screen, and this will be frequencies that I can add to the scan list. You can see that Rescue Smokies Z at the top is in there, as well as VTAC 11, which is the frequency we use aircraft to the medic on the ground. Even though it is an interoperability frequency, I'm going to go down to Dome, which is the Great Smoky Mountain Dome frequency primary to the Smokies, and I'm going to select that to add it to the scan list. And if I want to delete it, I will delete it from the scan list. And to get out of the screen, press the home button, and then obviously we can turn scan on as we talked about, and then scan off based on what you want to do. Also, we're going to go to Dome, and we want to have it, even though you can select it by going a couple of clicks on the top, we might want to put it in a preset. And if you want to put a frequency in a preset, we're going to put it in preset 1. You would press, wait till it beeps, and release it. Let's go to
National Guard flight hops.
Lifestar. Let's see, Lifestar Chilhowie. I want to put that in 2. And it's in 2. So I'm going to go back to NG Flight Ops, press and
National
hold.
Guard flight hops.
When I go to a preset frequency, I don't press and hold it. That's how I programmed. I'm just going to press and release it. There's Dome. 2, press and release is Chilhowie. Okay, and you can do this with any frequency, and it would be easier to go to if you're going to go back and forth on those frequencies or even put them on the scan list. One other thing, when you call NG Flight Ops, there may be frequencies based on what you're doing. If you're calling back to base, they may have to look up in the frequencies that are in this radio, which there are approximately 700 with all the interoperability frequencies, and they might tell you the frequency you need to go on based on what is given to us is in zone 44. So what we would do is we would go to zone, we would press zone, top 44, and we are in that zone. And then you could go in that zone and
National.
again repeating, you get zone. They want you to go to zone 44. You would press zone 44. That's Claiborne 241 zone. You would select it. And then your rotator would go to the frequencies you need to go to, which is Fire 7 Alpha. That's where they wanted us to go, and you can operate. Also notice it's not on a network, on a repeater network. It is a direct frequency line of sight. Again, to get back home, let's do this. Let's put that frequency in the preset 3. So we're going to go 3, press release it. It is in preset 3. Press the yellow home button. I'm at NG Flight Ops. When I want to go back to that fire frequency, press and release 3 real quick, and I'm back there. Back to NG Flight Ops. Want to cover one thing. When this radio is in your vest, you're going to be looking down, viewing it upside down on the top display. I'm going to go all the way counterclockwise. You've got your cover on, but your side button is uncovered, and you can go through the selection of the frequencies just like we did earlier. You can go your 16 on top. You have a display. You also have the display of the direct. All of the displays you have on the front, most of the displays you have on the top. Now let's cover what the frequencies actually are on the radio in the Rescue Smoky zone that has been built for most everything we do. So NG Flight Ops, you're familiar with. It is on a TACAN repeater network. VTAC 11 is used for the medics. It is an interop frequency. It is a direct frequency, radio to radio. And on the ground, the medic would have, if he would press the scan button,
Scan on.
NG Flight Ops and VTAC 11 would be scanned. If they try you on NG Flight Ops and it
National
doesn't
Guard
come
flight
through, they can go to VTAC 11, try you, even though the pilot is still on NG Flight Ops. If their scan is on, they would hear that. The medic would say, hey, I'm on VTAC 11. The pilot would simply just
National
reach
Guard
down
flight hawk.
and go to VTAC 11, and you're communicating. He can still hear the calls coming from Flight Ops, anyone using that NG Flight Ops, because he is still in a scan mode. So you are still talking to NG Flight Ops. That's important to know. Okay, we're going VTAC 11 to the Great Smoky Mountain Dome frequency. That's primary for rescues.
590.
And there they are talking on the Smoky Mountain repeater network. Now notice it's not a TACAN repeater, but it is on a repeater system. It's a little bit different than what I mentioned earlier, but it is not direct as you would see in the middle. When they talk, you can see at upper left that indicator came on when there is communication, so it's on a repeater network. Local, you can see that this is the Smoky Mountain local. This would be radio to radio when you can't hit a repeater network. Lifestar Cross, primary for Lifestar in the valley. That is on their repeater network. Again, upper left would come on when communications are taking place because it's not on a TACAN network. That is used to call UT Lifestar Comm Center. Also, Lifestar VHF is the VHF frequency for UT when you're within 10 miles of the hospital. All helicopters coming into UT would be on that frequency within 10 miles of the hospital. Lifestar Chilhowie, around in the Chilhowie Lake area. If you start out on Cross and you're having bad communications, sporadic communications, go to Lifestar Chilhowie. They are monitoring that. Med 1 Severe, that is LeCompte Medical. They're in Sevierville, right at the Gatlinburg-Sevierville Airport. That is Blunt Memorial Hospital. The EMS frequencies are given by the Tennessee Communications Network. 205 is a direct frequency, but it's also sometimes on a repeater network that you can talk to the 8 regional comm centers. And if you look at the map, there are 8 across the state. Each of those has a robust communications package. If you go anywhere within their region, and Flight Ops can keep track of which counties, they can patch you in to any hospital, pretty much any agency within their region. And these EMS frequencies, you can talk to them, even though it's direct, probably 25 to 40 miles out, depending on the terrain and depending on your altitude. So you can call them on 205. 340 is generally a frequency that is used aircraft to hospital. You'd have to have an encode number. We won't cover that at this time. 280 would only be used at this time in the Memphis comm center region. That would be helicopter to hospital. They want you to use 280. Mutual aid. These are TACAN frequencies that are used in certain regions. NG Flight Ops is statewide. These mutual aid frequencies are regionalized. You can see that 6 is in our region. That's why you have bars indicated, because the region is here in this area. So EMS Mutual 6 is actually used for UT. The Mutual Aid 9 is Johnson City, and again, this is, if you have bars indicated, you're close enough to that area to talk to them and with the mutual aid frequency. However, you need to get flight ops to call that comm center to make sure they're up that mutual aid. But you can literally talk to them from 100 miles out. Mutual aid 15 being an example. We're picking that up now. That is Vanderbilt Comm Center, and you can talk to them from 100, 150 miles out as you get closer, then hit them on the EMS 205 within 35, 40 miles. EMS 1 is Chattanooga Erlanger Comm Center in their region, and they are the most robust as far as using the EMS mutual aid frequencies. That is the 16 on top. I'll go to the side and continue. Mutual aid 10 is the Cookeville region and Middle Tennessee that is used to talk to the comm center. Air to ground is used. We have used it fighting fires, and there's air to ground 3, air to ground 29, and air to ground 46. They are direct frequencies, as you can see, and I'm going to turn the scan off, by the way.
Scan off.
And they are used as an interrupt frequency if ground guys are familiar with aviation assets. That will use these frequencies quite a bit. Fry Mountain, Barnett, Sterling, Gatlinburg, Look Rock, Cove Mountain, Webb Mountain are all Smoky Mountain repeater areas that you would go to if they tell you to push to that frequency to make it easier to communicate. Lifestar English is like English Mountain when you go past Sevierville toward LeConte and further. That's Lifestar English. TEMA Ops is obviously a frequency that you would use to talk to TEMA in Nashville or TEMA locally, and NG Ops is the EOC in Nashville.
National Guard.
We're right back to NG Flight Ops, and know that you can also go backwards on these and hit the bottom button to go to frequencies if it's closer to the end of that list, which there are 30 in that zone. You can go backwards and go back to them and go back up to NG Flight Ops. You'll notice that the top rotator is not on one, but I can cycle through all the frequencies using the side buttons. I can also go back to NG Flight Ops pressing the yellow home button.
National Guard Flight Ops.
I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise to its
National
normal
Guard
position.
Flight Ops.
Lastly, I just want to show a 205, and this is what a communications comm center would use. This particular 205 was used in Gatlinburg, and you can see the channel names, which are VTAC, which is VHF, UTAC, which is UHF, 8TAC, which is an 800 frequency, 7TAC, that's a 700 frequency, and then other names such as NG Ops, NG Flight Ops are obviously a TACing frequency, and then you have others dispersed. What will need to happen is you can look through the PDF, and your Flight Ops will do that, and find out where 8TAC 93 is in the zones in the radio. Again, as we mentioned, they will say the zone is in 63, so I would select zone 63, select that, and then I would go select, obviously it's not 8TAC 93, but it would be in one of those 16 frequencies, and they could tell you which one, or you could just cycle through it. You could go ahead and put that in a preset by pressing 4, because we've got 1 through 3 in, and I've got it in, press home.
National Guard Flight Ops.
And if I want to go back to my preset frequencies, 1 was Dome, 2 Lifestar Chilhowie, 3 was that fire, and 4 is that crest. And so you can set up your radio if you have multiple frequencies you need to go to by simply putting them in the preset, which would be far easier to go to. Just know that you would have to pull the radio out of the sleeve because the keypad is covered. So obviously you'd have to lift it up, make the changes, press the preset, and then back down.